Every 4 years, the world stops for one game. A ball is placed at the center of a field. Two teams stand on opposite sides. A whistle blows, and suddenly, billions of people understand what is at stake. It is simple. A ball, a field, two goals. But around that simplicity, humanity built something enormous. Nations found pride. Children found heroes, and generations found a language that needed no translation. Before the stadium lights, before the World Cup, before the legends and the roaring crowds, there was only the instinct to chase, to kick, to compete, and to turn a ball into a story. This is the story of football.
Football may look simple. One ball, two goals, 11 players on each side. But behind this game is a history that stretches across centuries. It began long before professional clubs, television broadcasts, and global tournaments. It passed through ancient cultures, medieval streets, English schools, industrial towns, and eventually, the world stage. Today, football is more than a sport. It is culture. It is memory. It is identity. And to understand how it became the world's game, we have to begin before football even had rules.
Long before modern football existed, people were already playing games with balls. In ancient China, a game called Cuju involved kicking a ball toward a target. In Japan, Kemari became a graceful ritual of keeping a ball in the air. In Mesoamerica, ball games carried deep cultural and religious meaning. Across the ancient world, people kept returning to the same idea. A ball could gather people. A ball could create competition. A ball could turn movement into meaning. But these were not yet football as we know it. For centuries, football-like games were local, rough, and chaotic. In medieval Europe, villages played versions of football through fields and streets. Rules changed from place to place. Sometimes, entire communities took part. There were no proper pitches, no referees, no fixed formations, no clean separation between sport, festival, and chaos. The game was alive, but it was not yet organized.
Before football could become a global sport, it had to answer one important question. What exactly was football? By the 19th century, different schools in Britain were playing different versions of the game. Some allowed players to carry the ball. Some focused on kicking. Some allowed heavy physical contact. Others began moving toward a cleaner passing and dribbling game. So when different schools and clubs met, they often disagreed on the rules. Was football a game of the hands or a game of the feet? That question would eventually separate association football from rugby. And in 1863, the answer became clearer.
In 1863, representatives of football clubs met in England to create a shared set of rules. That year, the Football Association was formed. It was one of the most important moments in the history of the sport. Under figures like Ebenezer Cobb Morley, the first laws of the game were drafted. The early rules were not exactly the same as today, but they gave football something it had never fully had before: a common identity. Carrying the ball was separated from the game. Rough practices like hacking were rejected, and football became, above all, a game played with the feet. From that moment, the game could travel, because wherever it went, people could now learn the same rules.
Once football had rules, it needed competition. In 1871, the Football Association launched the FA Cup. The first final was played in 1872. Suddenly, football had stories. Teams could chase a trophy. Crowds could follow a journey. Victories could become memories. Defeats could become wounds. Then, in 1888, the Football League was founded. This changed football again. A cup gave the game drama, but a league gave it rhythm. Week after week, clubs played. Tables changed. Rivalries grew. Football became part of everyday life. Especially in industrial towns, it became tied to workers, neighborhoods, cities, and local pride. It was no longer only a pastime. It was becoming an institution.
Football spread because it was easy to carry. It did not need expensive equipment. It did not need a special arena. It needed a ball. It needed space. And it needed people willing to play. British sailors, merchants, workers, teachers, engineers, and soldiers brought the game with them as they traveled. They carried it to ports, schools, railways, and cities, to Europe, to South America, to Africa, to Asia. But the most important thing is this: football did not remain British. Every country that adopted it reshaped it. Brazil made it expressive. Argentina made it emotional and technical. Italy made it tactical. Germany made it disciplined. The Netherlands transformed how people thought about space. Across Africa, football became a stage for pride, flair, and national hope. Across Asia, it grew through schools, leagues, investment, and devotion. Football traveled as a British game, but it became the world's game because everyone made it their own.
As football spread, the game needed international organization. In 1904, FIFA was founded. By then, football was no longer just a British export. It had become an international force. National teams began to matter. International matches carried flags, anthems, pride, and pressure. Then, in 1930, football took its biggest step. The first FIFA World Cup was held in Uruguay. Only 13 teams took part. All the matches were played in Montevideo. But the idea was powerful. For the first time, football had a true world championship. Uruguay won that first tournament on home soil. And from that beginning, the World Cup slowly became one of the biggest events on earth. Club football belonged to cities, but the World Cup belonged to nations.
Over time, the World Cup became more than a tournament. It became a stage for myth. In 1950, Uruguay shocked Brazil in Rio de Janeiro, creating one of football's most painful memories. In 1958, a young Pelé helped Brazil become world champions. In 1970, Brazil showed the world a version of football that looked like art. In 1966, England won at home. In the 1970s, the Netherlands changed the game with total football. In 1986, Diego Maradona gave the world moments of genius, controversy, and legend. Every World Cup created images people never forgot. A goal, a save, a celebration, a tearful exit, a nation holding its breath. That is football's power. One moment can change everything. One kick can become history.
As football became global, players became more than athletes. They became symbols. Pelé represented joy and imagination. Maradona represented defiance and brilliance. Johan Cruyff represented intelligence and movement. Zinedine Zidane represented elegance under pressure. Marta helped show the greatness of women's football. Mia Hamm inspired a generation. Cristiano Ronaldo became a symbol of ambition and discipline. Leonardo Messi became a symbol of grace and quiet genius. But football legends are not remembered only because they won. They are remembered because of how they made people feel. A great player can make a stadium rise before the ball even reaches the goal. A great player can make millions believe something impossible is about to happen. That is part of football's magic. It is both a team game and a stage for individual greatness.
Today, football is everywhere. It is played in the largest stadiums on earth, and in narrow streets where goalposts are made from stones, shoes, or bags. It belongs to the Champions League final, and to children playing after school. It belongs to wealthy clubs, local teams, national squads, weekend players, and fans who may never step onto a pitch. Television changed the game. Clubs became global brands. Players became international celebrities. A fan in Manila could support a club in Manchester. A child in Lagos could wear the shirt of a team in Madrid. A viewer in Tokyo could wake before dawn to watch a match in London. Football was no longer limited by geography. But as the game became richer, it also became more complicated. Money, ownership, sponsorships, transfers, and media changed the sport forever. Still, beneath everything, the old heartbeat remained. A ball, a field, 2 goals, and people who care deeply about what happens next.
In the end, football became the world's game because it remained simple. A ball, a field, 2 goals. But around that simplicities, humanity built something vast. A game of skill, a game of memory, a game of pride, a game of heartbreak, a game of belonging. It began in ancient ball games and chaotic village contests. It was shaped by schools, clubs, workers, rules, cities, and nations. It crossed oceans. It filled stadiums. It survived war, politics, money, exclusion, and change. And still, at its center, it remains what it has always been. A moment of possibility. 1 pass, 1 shot, 1 save, 1 goal. For 90 minutes, the world can hold its breath. And sometimes, with a single kick, history changes. Thank you for watching.
For our next episode, we travel to Salem, 1692. A girl screams, another falls, then another. The village searches for an answer, and fear gives them one. Witchcraft. Whispers become accusations. Neighbors turn on neighbors. Courtrooms fill. Prison doors close. And innocent people are condemned. The Salem witch trials were not only a story of fear, they were a warning. Because sometimes, the most dangerous thing in a town is what people are willing to believe. Discover the full story in the next episode of Earth History Retold.